sometimes just mess it all up. So CBS 7 kickoff is deep, and it's going to be off the net. And it's going to be grabbed by Isaiah Scott. Isaiah Scott makes one man miss the end zone. Scott makes it to the near side. Scott, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown. Mike. Walks it right in. Play on that ball right over top of the defender. And boy, see the replay here. He put Caleb Smith in motion with Jonathan Banks. Just do a little swing pass. And Caleb Smith with the rest. There. He's got a lane in the middle if he can get past him. And he might be good for a touchdown. There it is. And wow! Trayvon Sidney straight down the middle. Pulls a move on the kicker. And he's in the end zone for about 60 seconds.
We are back with another edition of Arena Football Weekly. I'm Adam. Joining me, as always, is Trey. Trey, welcome. We're back.
We're back. What an intro. Brews, buds, ball. What is better? What is better than that, honestly?
Nothing. We got our brews, we got our buds, and now we're going to talk some ball. So cheers.
Listen, we talked about this pre-recording. Guys, chat, be nice. I don't have a brew, but this is a brewed beverage.
It was brewed.
Nice
it's brewed. It contains alcohol. It serves the purpose. It's what we want. Yeah.
There you go.
Cheers.
But yeah, the long off season is finally coming to an end. We got the NAL kicking off this weekend with their regular season, and it's a super exciting time in the indoor and arena football landscape.
No, it's great. It's huge. First football. I mean, we had some games last weekend, some preseason games with the Pueblo Punishers and Louisiana Rougarou. We got to watch the Pueblo Punishers and got our first look at the NAL network, which was nice. Liked it.
There were plenty of exciting plays between the NOCO Nightmare and the Pueblo Punishers. Watch it live at the NAL network. There were plenty of those, so it was a really good time.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing I look for in those preseason games is just, depending on the level of talent, which is usually a semi-pro team, do you manhandle them and just look like you control the game?
Yeah.
Because if you don't look like you control the game, I'm very worried. I'm worried about your long-term future. And the Pueblo Punishers came out and absolutely rolled NOCO, which is what I thought they would do. You watch that game and Pueblo's just able to do whatever they want, whenever they want. We didn't get to see the Rougarou. We saw some select highlights kind of leak out, but it was a similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Far Phantoms did score, 24 points. But the Rougarou looked like they were in control of that from start to finish with no issues.
Yeah, it was a little close, a little closer than the Louisiana would probably be comfortable with. I think in the beginning of third quarter, it was only an 8 or 9 point game. So Far was sticking around, but eventually they just blew the doors off of it. And before you know it, you blinked and it was 60-24. So pretty good debuts for both Pueblo and Louisiana, who Pueblo entering their very first season in the NAL, and Louisiana entering a second season after our first season that didn't go as planned. But good to see them get some big decisive wins in their preseason.
No, that's great. And, so little bit of a shameless plug here. Everybody, if you head over to the Arena Football Weekly store right now, you will be able to get 10% off with code NAL Preview. That's NAL Preview, all caps. From now until midnight Eastern, we will give you 10% off your order. Get yourself a glass, get yourself a koozie, shirt, mug, whatever you want. It's all over there. Support the show. Let Trey and I buy a beer the next time we go hang out at an arena football event.
Yeah, and if you haven't checked out that store, the store is well put together. Kudos to Adam for doing that. And everything is super reasonably priced. It is very, very, very achievable. So I think the shirt was starting at $16, which is a bargain in today's day and age. So yeah, go check it out. And if you like beers, Buds or Brews, Buds, and Ball. God, get it right, Trey. Brews, Buds, and Ball. That's the store for you.
It's only the second week. We'll be okay. We got time. We'll still figure it out.
Yeah.
So I'm not too worried.
It's our preseason.
Yeah, it's our preseason. We're
Yeah.
working our way up. We're getting ready for the AF1 and the IFL. It'll all be there.
Yeah.
But, that's enough of talking about other leagues, because we said this was an NAL preview episode, and by gum, we're going to give you an NAL preview episode. So the NAL we're talking about, they expanded a bit this year, added teams in Amarillo, Dallas, and they brought over the Salina Liberty in Southwest Kansas, as well as adding the Pueblo Punishers. So adding 5 teams in the offseason to join the Rougarou, the Beef, the Bandits, and the Spartans. And, lots of talent, a lot of names that indoor and arena football fans will be familiar with, guys who have stuck around for a while, and even a couple guys NFL fans will be familiar with as well.
Yeah, and I think heading into the season, it's a super exciting season ahead for the NAL. Like you said, adding all those new teams in, and not just brand new teams, but established teams like Salina and Southwest Kansas, to help bring some stable organizations to the league. But of the 9 teams in the league, 6 of them are making the playoffs. So the playoffs are wide open for a lot of teams in this league. So it's not like 1 or 2 teams is really going to run away with it. Like 6 teams are going to have a ticket to the dance and have an opportunity to take home the NAL title at the end of the year.
Yeah. So let's just get into it. Let's just go. What do you think? Alphabetically, should we kind of tier them? What are you thinking here?
I mean, you want to start with like who we think are going to be the better teams and kind of work our way that way?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to me, I really love the roster that the Colorado Spartans are putting together. They have the big splash signing of the NAL this past offseason with Paxton Lynch, former Denver Bronco, joining the team, and looks like he's getting acclimated to the game and getting acclimated to the pace and the angles and all the buzzwords that you hear people talk about. But not just on offense, but defensively, they have a really good roster. The pass rush is going to be good. Joe Powell at defensive back, he's been a vet in the indoor game for a little while now. And I think an underrated sleeper for Colorado is their kicker. That's right. Kickers are people too. Luis Ferreira, he's a really, 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 really good kicker. So he helped them out a ton last year and kept them in some ball games and won some ball games for them. So if you're looking for a game breaker or a game changer, look none other than the kicker in Colorado.
I mean, if you're calling the kicker a game breaker, we need to obviously talk about Lex Rosario, who is definitely the game breaker, and the reason why I feel better about the Paxton Lynch experiment. Right. And I'm going to call it experiment because the last time I saw Paxton Lynch play, he was getting run out of the XFL, USFL. I don't remember which it was at that point, but he did not look good. And I think the thing that worries me about Paxton Lynch is he's never been a quick decision maker, which is what's going to have to happen in the 50-yard game. He has to make those quick snap decisions. So I'm a little nervous about that as he makes the transition. However, given that the NAL is playing more indoor style rules, he's going to have more space to run the ball, which is going to be good. Whereas his athleticism and his size is really going to help. I don't know that there's going to be anybody who's as tall as him throughout the league, and there's going to be very few guys who are going to weigh as much as him. I mean, he's tipping the scales at 6'7", 245. That's a big guy, and that's going to be real hard to bring down. But Lex Rosario last year and in years past has been an absolute just dynamo in the 50-yard game wherever he's played, in the IFL, for a brief stint in the AF1 last year, and last year when he spent time with the Spartans, 11 catches for 124 yards and 4 touchdowns over 5 games. So in a league that's more run heavy, to have that kind of year is really impressive out of Rosario.
Yeah, and they used him a ton in the running game too, which shocked me because you're talking about a player that led the IFL in catches 2 years ago. And then suddenly he's a running back for Colorado and serving the purpose that they need. And he wasn't just a running back. Like, he was running the ball very, very well and scoring multiple touchdowns on the ground too. So yeah, he's definitely the Swiss Army knife that makes that offense go. And if he could have the same type of year that he had last year on the back half of the season, this entire season, Colorado is going to be a very, very good team.
Yeah, and like you talked about, Joe Powell defensively, Faliawega Russell. Oh my
Nailed
gosh,
it.
I always
Nailed
butcher
it.
that one.
Nailed it.
Swinging both ways on the offensive line is big, and it's going to be interesting to see. They have Devontae Jackson and Carver Shamel Dumas listed at running back. Shamel Dumas is a little bit more of a traditional 50-yard big thumper, 6'5", 230. I'm jumping all over the place. Devontae Jackson, smaller scat back out of West Georgia, 5'7". But, a guy like him is probably, hopefully they're showing him a lot of Tracy Brooks films. And hopefully Coach Solo is saying, you need to be Tracy Brooks. Tracy Brooks has had a very long career in this game, and Tracy Brooks is an integral part. If you can be our Tracy Brooks, we can do big things.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. If everyone just plays their role and nobody tries to do way too much, this team will be just fine, because the talent is distributed across the entire offense and across the entire defense. If you're looking pound for pound, like distribution wise in terms of talent, this is them and probably one of the next teams that I have a feeling we'll be talking about are up there for the NAL.
Yeah. So, I mean, Colorado obviously in our top tier when we're talking about playoff teams. So, where you want to head to next, Trey? I'm going to let you steer this ship. I'm ready to talk about the guys, but I want to see the journey we're going here.
Yeah, and I think you can't talk about the NAL without talking about the Omaha Beef either. And they've been the New York Yankees of the NAL over the past couple of years, where when they lose, the haters are tap dancing on their grave, but when they win, they're doing their thing, and they're letting people know about it. So Coach Negron has been in the indoor game for a while now, and just really assembling a really good roster of talent over in Omaha, with a lot of veterans from last season and veterans from around the indoor and arena game. Because when you have someone like Coach Negron, who's been around as long as he has, a lot of connections, and he's bringing over some folks that he may have had in Carolina and has some experience with. But for me in Omaha, the quarterback position is going to be extremely interesting, because based on what we're seeing, it's looking like Demery Croft is maybe probably QB1 at this point. And I'm here to ask the question, should he be?
I mean, the last time we saw Demery Croft play was for at least that I can remember. The last time we saw him play was for the Minnesota Men.
He came in relief for Quad City a couple games last year when Daquan was out. So he played a little bit last year.
A little bit, but he just struggled so much in Minnesota, but I don't know what the reason for that is. Like, that's my problem with Demery Croft, is like, I don't know if his monstrous struggles were because he was cooked or because that team was cooked, because he has the intangibles. When you think about him, he's played at a top level. He's 6'5", he's 210. He brings physicality. He can throw, he can run, he can do it all with his legs, with his arms when he's on. I haven't seen Demery Croft look like the guy he was. What year was that? Did he run Rookie of the Year? He was with in the IFL. He was like a rookie phenom, like 3-4 years ago, and he's really fallen off since.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's really built for the indoor game, so the indoor style. So I think that arena style in Minnesota definitely didn't play to his strengths. But even last year, when he stepped in relief for Daquan Neal in Quad City, he's an athlete. He is a very large quarterback. I think he's like 6'5". So one of the bigger quarterbacks that you're going to see in all of indoor football. And when he tucks it and runs, look out, because it's hard to bring him down. But when he's not tucking and running, you almost want to dare him to throw the ball, because you arguably have a better chance if he's throwing the ball versus when he's running the ball. So I know they brought in Tyler Lowenstein from he played in Sioux City last year. He looked pretty good when he did play in Sioux City. So to me, if he makes it through camp, and they've got a quarterback situation there with a couple guys, couple arms in camp, but to me, if he's able to make it through camp, you could see him emerge at least some part of the season as potential challenger to that QB1 slot, because as much as the NAL is a more run heavy league, you still got to be able to pass the ball, especially in that Brandon Negron offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then just looking at some of those offensive weapons, they've got a guy in Otis Odom coming in. Otis is just an absolutely dynamic playmaker with the ball in his hands and the speed. But the question is he back from injury? He was slated to play in Washington last year, and he was just hurt. So he got cut loose, unfortunately. And that's kind of the nature of the beast. So if he's back and healthy, that's an explosive piece that can really add a lot for this Omaha team heading into 2026.
Yeah, and the Omaha roster, if you've been tracking it throughout the offseason, they've made some really big signings, but then they're kind of the victim of poaching by other teams and other leagues where you look at, I think Jarvey Flowers was signed with them earlier this offseason, got poached for another league, another team. And so they've really struggled with that throughout the offseason. But Omaha's always going to be Omaha. They're going to be competitive. They're going to be very, very good. And it's basically a lock to put them in one of those 6 playoff spots, if not one of the top 2 that's going to end up getting a bye week.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those things where we have it in the chat right now. The B for the NAL's dynasty, they don't rebuild, they rebuild.
100%. 100%.
And that's very true, but I do think that this is one of the deeper years that we've seen in the NAL.
Yeah.
And obviously they're bringing back Karel Kolmos, had 28 catches for 3 touchdowns last year. And also Devonair Conliffe. I think I said that right. Some of these names are always great. They're trusting
he's a big wide receiver. He's a big boy, and he can go up and get it. So he played really, really well for Duke City. Fun a few years back, but fun fact about Devonair Conliffe, they played him at wide receiver and D-line back in Duke City. So look out for that. You might see Devonair lining up at defensive end if they need it.
There's a few of those guys that have played off wide receiver and defensive line, just those big, like 6'3", 6'4", beefy guys who are almost like converted tight ends.
Right.
So that creates that's always an interesting wrinkle in the arena game.
Yeah, Omaha is going to be really, really good. The Slaughterhouse, one of the best nicknames for any home arena in the indoor landscape. It's going to be bumping every week.
In the history of sports, how many arenas or fields have a name as good as the Slaughterhouse?
It's the Slaughterhouse, and then when you look at the mascot's name is Sir Loin.
Love it.
Sir Loin and the slot. It's too good. It's too good. Omaha's got a good operation there,
and
both on and off the field.
PJ Thomas, also in Omaha, was the 2025 AAL2 MVP. And this is one of those things where I don't know that this counts as our off-field comment of the show, but the NAL's filling like a really good gap for guys who are playing in AAL2 to make a step to show that they can do it at the next level. So PJ Thomas is going to be a very interesting test case to come into the upper level, because the NAL's really filled that void, and giving guys like that opportunities is a really big thing for them.
Yeah, and that's what makes that quarterback room in Omaha so interesting, where, like I said, Demery Croft has no problem running the ball, but when it comes time to air it out, he might not be the best option in the room. And you got PJ Thomas coming in, got something to prove. I mean, it's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on, but I would imagine Demery is QB1 this weekend, and we'll see how he goes.
Yeah. All right. You're driving this train. Where are we headed next?
Well, let's go not too far from Nebraska. We'll go one state over. Let's go to Salina, Kansas, where Salina's coming over from the AF1, and Coach Heron O'Neill, one of the best to do it over the past decade and a half, 2 decades coaching. He's in the IFL Hall of Fame coaching, and has done a really bang-up job with Salina over the past couple of years over in AFL and AF1. So coming over here and getting back to more of his roots, more of his style of play with the indoor rules. You got some of the same weapons that we're familiar with over the past couple of years. You mentioned Tracy Brooks a little bit earlier, Kerry Starks on the defensive side of the ball. There's all sorts of folks up and down this roster where it's like, okay, if they're playing indoor rules, we could see a Salina team that is a little bit more comfortable in that style versus what they've been in the past couple of years.
I mean, they were very comfortable. They played their game, and their game worked very well, except when they ran into the absolute buzzsaw that was Albany last year. I mean, and that wasn't. I don't think that was a stylistic issue. I think that was just right before halftime. Sam Castronova broke Salina with that scramble play, lofted 30 yards into the back corner of the end zone over two defenders in the back of it. It's just. I really don't think it was a talent or a scheme thing. I think it was just they ran into the inevitability that was the Firebirds, because they punched with everybody last year and they played multiple games and they shifted styles multiple times, which was very impressive. And like we talked about, in addition to Tracy Brooks, Ed Smith is back, big time deep threat for them. And additionally, they brought in Duke Williams, former NFL player. So I'm curious how he acclimates. He's kicked around some 50-yard game rosters recently. I'm curious if we get to see more of him in action this year. The question mark for me in Salina has to be the quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Because currently it's Evan Lewandowski, Aaron Aiken, and Devon Blair is listed as a quarterback.
Yeah.
So they're going into this year without any quarterbacks from last year. Aiken and Lewandowski, I know, spent time I believe on the Salina roster over the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
However, they never really played. So no Javin Kilgo coming back is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's playing anywhere right now. And I know Rakeem Cato signed in the IAL. So it's going to be interesting to me as they make that offensive switch, because they always seem to make it work. It's just this year, I'd just be a little nervous as they get set for this year, not having an established option at quarterback.
Yeah, it's going to be, because it feels like they're in a similar situation where Evan is probably the better passer of the quarterback room, but Aaron Aiken, his bread and butter is being able to third and goal on the 2. Snap it to him. He puts it under his arm. He plows into the end zone, right? So I believe he was with the Spartans last year.
Yep.
I think the opening game against Wheeling, I think he had 6 rushing touchdowns, and he just absolutely dominated the short game. So that's where he really excels. But when it comes time to open things up in the passing game, that's where it gets into a little bit of trouble. So I'm curious who Salina trots out as QB1 during week 1, because it might not be the same week 9, 10.
If I have learned one thing about Coach O'Neill and the Liberty, it's that it doesn't matter who's on the roster week 1, because on any given week, they will sign, drop, cut, trade, whoever, whenever, whatever, to make that team better. And they will plug them into that system and it will work. That's what makes Coach O'Neill so good, is the fact that he can take guys and get them into positions to be successful on very short notice. And he does a good job of getting getting players in position there. I mean, you talked about Kerry Starks being back. That's absolutely huge, because Kerry Starks, there was a monstrous bidding war for Kerry Starks this offseason. I can tell you that right now. There were many people trying to get Kerry Starks on their roster across multiple leagues, and he eventually just decided to stay home in Salina, where he's played the last couple years, and he's just an absolute terror as the blitz linebacker or coming off the edge, and he brings that versatility that's really big on the defensive front 4 in the indoor game, and additionally just returning some beef on the offensive line as well, with Aleki Tapa coming back as well. Aleki spent a good bit of time in AF1, so that's a big returner there.
Yeah, no doubt that Salina's going to be good. Just strictly look at the coaching staff. They'll look no further than that, and they're going to be in the top half of the league. Last year they got off to a rough start, but ultimately righted the ship and was looking like they could take some teams down towards the end of the year. So we'll have to see, do they get off to a better start? Because they certainly can't get off to a worse start than what they did last year. So if they can get off to even a 2-1, 2-2 start, they'll be in a much better spot proceeding down the rest of the schedule.
Yep. All right. I think next we got to head across to the other end of Kansas and talk about the Southwest Kansas Storm.
Oh yeah, Coach Gary Thomas, man.
I mean, so this Kansas teams are great because they both have elite coaches, and I think the one philosophical difference is Gary Thomas is going to enter camp with his guys, and he is going to elevate his guys all season, and they're going to get better and better and better every week. And yes, that team that starts is not the team that ends because the players get better, the system adapts, and they get just exponentially more successful as they go along. And I think that's the biggest thing that always stands out for me when we're talking about the Storm is the fact that they came in the AFL. Gary Thomas's first year in the 50-yard game, and they struggled initially. They got punched in the mouth a bunch by teams, and eventually they were on really solid footing and punching with the best of the best in the AFL. And then the same thing happened last year in AF1. You know, they had an early season rough start. Like they had to go from Washington to Albany in like a 7-8 day stretch. And that's brutal. And then they just went on a tear to close out the year, and they lost some battles to Salina. And it's just a spectacular rivalry there, as we got in the chat. Absolute cinema. It has been every time. I think these teams have played like 4 or 5 times over the last 2 years, and the combined like net score difference is like 6 points. It's absolutely insane. And this Southwest Kansas team just has a ton of talent returning. Matt Struck is back from overseas, which is huge. He'll be the quarterback. He'll be the guy without any question. And then they've got, they brought back Demarius Washington again, who just is absolutely dominant and is going to be out for blood in the NAL like he is every year. He's a great receiver, veteran, and he's just going to make it work. And yeah, the Storm did lose guys, Jalen Morton, Michael Lawson, and Shiloh Flanagan, but D-Walsh is back. Matt Freese is back. Freese is a spectacular and versatile player. He's listed as a wide receiver. He played DB for them for a good chunk last year and played both ways a lot of the year. And then additionally, Shaq Bond is there on the defensive side. He came over from Salina. So that's a little interesting to me that they went a little bit across the state, adding a little bit more bad blood. And, Jamel Wynn on the defensive line is a big get.
I was waiting for it.
That adds some beef that I haven't seen on the Southwest Kansas defensive line, and I think that's going to be really good because again, like I said, Gary Compton is going to get this team better, and they're going to grow as the year goes on. So he's got his guys, and that's the JUCO coach in him at his heart, where he's going to take the guys, make them better, and make it work. And it's just really great to see. And then additionally, fun. They do have co-defensive coordinators this year because Jason Sheck is a little busy during the day with a day job as the superintendent of Dodge County Schools. So you have a very community-driven and community-centered team and organization, and it's great to see the way that Dodge City has wrapped their arms around that team, and I look forward to just seeing it continue as they continue to be stable.
Yeah, if you haven't seen a video or a picture of Jamel Wynn yet, go to my Twitter. I just reposted a video I posted during this past season. Absolute unit, just a large individual that anchors the defensive line, and he's listed at 6'5", 360. So if he's listed at that, might be a little higher.
I mean, he might end the season he's probably going to end the season at 360. Going to lose that weight in season.
Yeah. But yeah, the Southwest Kansas team, Gary Thomas does a really good job, like you said, of developing his guys, and Matt Struck coming back after a couple seasons overseas, I believe, is going to be huge. And he really turned it on for the Southwest Kansas Storm towards the end of that 2024 AFL season as the Storm were starting to heat up. But yeah, the battle in Kansas between Salina and Southwest Kansas, absolute cinema, always has, always will. And if you're looking for some games to circle, I think we talked about that specific matchup during last week's rivalry episode. Circle those on the calendar. Make sure it's appointment television, and tune into the NAL network to make sure you catch it.
Oh yeah. All right. We're so in my mind,
Mhm.
those are the teams at the top of the pyramid. Those four are at the top, and
Yeah.
it's highly likely in my mind that one of those four is the one that wins the championship.
Mhm.
Um, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm of the same belief. I really like Colorado. I think they're in a really good spot to potentially, like, they were close to getting a home game in the playoffs against Omaha last season, where Andre Sale did a really good job of dealing when he was able to play and partnering with Lex Rosario last season, and they got hot with a good wide receiver group. So it feels like it's going to come down to one of those four teams. But like I said at the top, 6 teams are going to make the playoffs. So we've seen more chaotic things happen in the indoor and 50-yard game. But some of the other teams that are knocking on the door here, if you want to talk about Pueblo, the Pueblo Punishers, we got a sneak peek of them this past week during their preseason game. They're an interesting case study, a very interesting case study, because they had a couple head coach candidates. They couldn't choose between them, so they said, you know what, co-head coaches. We got Clinton Solomon as the co-head coach and offensive coordinator, and then Tay Brooks as the co-head coach and defensive coordinator. The last time I could think we had co-head coaches, it was in Bay Area in 2023 when they won the IFL National Championship. So it worked out nicely for them. Is that the exception? Is that the example? I don't know. We'll find out. But what are your thoughts on Pueblo?
I mean, I liked what I saw because obviously quarterback. I always start with quarterback. It's the guy who touches the ball every play, every snap, and you need that guy to be ready to rock and roll. And the thing for me is that Josh Hollins is reliable. He's a veteran. He's been around the block and back again. And he's going to keep you in games. He's going to play well. But he's not going to win you necessarily any games where you're going to be ecstatic about that. And he's going to do a lot of it on the ground. So how can he take that step? How can he take those steps as a passer is the big question in my mind. And the thing that just kind of has me hesitant about them, just because I know he can be solid, but he's not going to win you a ton of games. He's not gonna lose you a ton of games, but you're
Right.
limited on the upside with him, in my mind.
Yeah, and I think it really helps when you have a wide receiver like Aaron Dilworth, who is just a highlight reel waiting to happen every single time he's in the game, every single pass that goes his direction. I think the first touchdown in Hot Springs Wise Guys history in TAL was a Dilworth catch over the wall, flipping one-handed, and that kind of set the tone for the season for him and the Wise Guys. So Dilworth is a dynamic wide receiver that is going to do really good things with the Pueblo Punishers and this Clint Solomon offense, who, if he has his guys, has proven that he can be productive. You saw what he did in Beaumont last year with that offense, leading them to the NAL title. This Punishers team is going to be very interesting. I probably have them in the 4 or 5 range at this point. If doing like playoff projections or stuff like that, just because they do have the talent, but I'm just curious. The co-head coach thing, it feels like it's great in theory. Execution 13 weeks into the season. How are we going to be feeling May 30th? I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and just some solid talent, including, Chris Elmore's a name that stands out to me just purely because as an upstate New Yorker, love what he did at Syracuse. So excited to see him on the field again in Pueblo. Just hope he can make an impact. And someone who could also get some work at fullback as well. Just, not a ton of names that necessarily like leap off the page, but they just absolutely went out and took care of business, which is great to see. And again, the big question will come when they get to that first game, the first NAL league game. How are they going to do? They got Saturday at 6:30. We got them versus the Spartans. So we're going to know real quick if Pueblo can hang or not.
Yeah, they're gonna be tested immediately, and it's
And then
cool
the
to
week
see
after,
that they. Yeah.
do you know where they go the week after?
No, where do they got?
They go to Omaha.
So they go Colorado and Omaha right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Well,
So they
we're
host
gonna know a
Colorado,
lot.
and then they head out to Omaha. So we're gonna know real quick if Pueblo can hang or not.
We're gonna know a lot about them. Yeah.
We're going to learn a lot about that team. And that's going to be, that's good. I mean, that's what you want to do. And then you get into a little bit of a lull in the schedule with the Dallas Bulls. Sioux City isn't necessary. Sioux City's a reliable team. That'll be a good measuring stick. And then right back at it with Salina and Louisiana, a Sioux City, a Colorado, and then they close out with Dallas and Amarillo. Like, there's a lot. I'm looking at a lot of parity this year in the NAL. So I think that that's a really good thing for everybody involved.
Yeah, 100%. And they have the opportunity to really, like, they have the players to make the leap and be one of those top 3, top 2 teams. But them being an expansion team, it's not impossible. We saw what Beaumont was able to do as an expansion team last year, right? But yeah, they're going to be, like you said, we're going to learn a lot about them very, very quickly in the beginning of the season.
Yeah. All right, where are we headed to next?
So for this next one, I think we want to go up to Sioux City with the Sioux City Bandits, and they're an interesting situation roster-wise. And the reason why I say that is because they had a little bit of a pileup at the quarterback position where you weren't sure what direction they were going. But ultimately, they made it a little bit easier when they released Ed Crouch a few weeks back. And they've got Lorenzo Brown Jr. at quarterback, who retired at the end of 2023 after an amazing run with the Sioux Falls Storm, unretired to come back with the Rattlers, then back with the Storm, and then with Omaha last year. So he's pulling a Brett Favre and having a whole career after retirement. And Sioux City is the next stop along the way. So he is one of those, as he's gotten older, a lot more street smarts, I guess. Football IQ is what we'll go with, where he's not busting the big run and making the monster play, but he's making the smart play the majority of the time. But where I think Sioux City is really going to feel an absence is at the running back position, because last year, Drew Prohaska, running back, retired this past offseason. 13 touchdowns last year, co-offensive player of the year, only player to average 35 rushing yards a game in the NAL. And he's gone. And he's been a consistent piece of that team and that offense for over a decade. So it feels like, how are they going to replace All Reliable at the running back position there? Plus, not a new quarterback in Lorenzo Brown, but new to Sioux City. It just makes things interesting and unique. And Sioux City, they're going to be one where they can strike at any time, but can they do it over the entirety of a 13-week season?
Yeah. And one guy who's kind of interesting to me is going to be Manalo Caldwell. Caldwell spent time with the Oklahoma Flying Aces in 2024. But he was good in that one Flying Aces game. Had 7 touches for 46 yards, which is solid. That's a good day in the arena game. It's just, how much can he do and how good is he going to do across the board? So that's the big question, obviously, but there's a little bit less pop there. They do have Roderick Washington, a big, beefy receiver, like we talked about. We like these guys, 6'6", 245. Obviously an instant mismatch headache for people. So it's a team with a lot of question marks, is what I like to say. We don't know what it's going to look like to start the year, but we know that Lorenzo Brown is incredibly capable, and it's going to come down to what can he do and what can he get this offense to be.
Yeah, it feels like they have a high floor compared to some of the other teams that we haven't talked about yet, but I also don't know where their ceiling is potential-wise. Just because how are they replacing some of that productivity? We just don't know yet.
Yeah. And did you say Damon Powell retired?
Drew Prohaska.
Drew Prohaska. That was it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Drew Prohaska, running back.
Yeah. All right, where are we headed next?
I want to head down to the other team that we saw in action, or didn't see in action, but saw highlights of in action in down in Shreveport in Louisiana with the Louisiana Rougarou, and they're another one where they're a wild card to me, where I could easily see them cracking that top six and making the playoffs based on some of the changes, some of the talent that they brought in. But I could also see the floor falling out again for them at the same time. So they're one where I just don't know what to think about them. But then bringing back Denarius Antoine at running back, he was impressive last year, and he was basically the only thing keeping that offense afloat for a few weeks before he got shipped off to Beaumont towards the end of the year. But he's a big bruiser when he's got the ball in his hands, and you can feed him the entire game, and he can take the hits, he can take the abuse. So if they're able to get any sort of pass game going with him at the running back spot, they could be in a spot to make some noise on offense, because that was something they sorely missed last year, a consistent quarterback. And when they finally got it in Guillermo Serrano, he got knocked out the last I don't know what the injury was, but I think he got hit into the wall and jacked up his shoulder or something like that. So it just kind of derailed any momentum that they had. But yeah, Denarius Antoine, he's the bright spot on this Louisiana Rougarou team, and hopefully we get a televised game here soon from the Rougarou, and we can see if they pass the eye test.
Yeah, I mean, and they also brought in William Walters, which I think could be interesting. He's a guy we haven't seen a ton of in starting action, but he's been around a bunch of leagues. He spent time in the TAL, the AF, the Arena League briefly. He's been all over the map, really. So it'll be interesting to see if he can rise to this level of play. You know, another guy, it seems like every team has this guy, the big receiver. We have Quentin Williams, 6'7", 250 here out of Texas Tech. I mean, and it's just, if you're playing in a small space and you're gonna be down around the red zone, what's a better way to do that than just bully people with that guy?
Yeah, snap the ball, throw it up. Don't overthink it.
Yeah. I mean, he was listed as a defensive lineman in college, so making the transition to receiver is fascinating to me. And again, we love that. I love these big receivers that become that. So it's just, I don't have a lot of names that I necessarily am like, yeah, I know that guy. But again, we have questions. We can't write them off.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, Louisiana, I would love to see a good Rougarou team. You know how awesome it would be, the Rougarou in the playoffs, they win the playoff. That would be a great headline. I would love to see local news try to spell out Rougarou on a consistent basis. Like, I would love for them to be in the mix. But like I mentioned at the top of the show, rough start last season, but it seems like they're starting to get some things in order off the field. They're bringing in some help to help right the ship and make things sustainable for the future. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this Louisiana Rougarou team can do.
Yeah. Yep. All right, where are we headed to next? We're in Texas, no matter what.
We're going to Texas, and man, I don't know where I want to go here. I guess we could go to Amarillo, because they at least have had a coach for a little while now that has stuck around. But there's just
the one. That was our one.
There was the one.
There was the one comment.
You got it last week. I got it this week.
You get it this week.
Yes.
The one off-field foolishness comment.
Yeah, there's just a lot of unknowns about this squad to me. And it seemed like at quarterback, Kobe Gatson was going to be the guy coming over from his experience a little bit in the TAL last year. I believe he was in AF1 for a cup of coffee last year, was he not?
He spent some time with the Wolfpack last year in AF1.
Yeah, so he was an interesting one to me, where like you give him some time to develop a chemistry with a group. I was like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's hear it out. But then he gets released. So now Talon Shaw might be the guy, or is it Wes Jones the guy at quarterback? This is just a massive.
They released Kobe?
Yeah, they according to the transaction page. If I'm wrong, chat, please keep me honest. But I thought on the transaction page
on the Dallas roster.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where, like, Amarillo, they seem like the prototypical expansion team where this year might be a rough one for them, but they're going to learn, they're going to grow, and maybe year 2 we can see what they're about. But this Amarillo team, there's just so many unknowns, and it's like I said, a big time wait and see, and get them on the field and see what they look like after this weekend.
I mean, in Amarillo, I'm very interested to see because, they have some guys that I've seen do it before. They have some guys, Chase Alasakis, LeKedrick Holmes, Michael Pillow Smiley. Pillow Smiley and Alasakis were really reliable pass rushers last year in AF1. So I'm very curious to see how that works out. Alasakis was a sack machine coming from the MAC. So I'm just curious how that transitions into the NAL. And Pillow Smiley was really versatile, playing all over the field for the Lightning last year. So I think they have some guys that I'm very interested in. Kobe Martin is on Dallas, not on Amarillo. I was bouncing back and forth in my head.
Gatson. I was talking about Gatson, not Martin.
Oh, Gatson. Yes. Too many Kobe's. Too many Kobe's.
There's a lot of Kobe's out there. A lot of Kobe's, yeah.
And just as we're talking about Tylan Shaw, like, he's a guy who has played before. He's not a complete unknown. He played for the West Texas Warbirds, but he wasn't necessarily a game breaker or anybody who was going to really, do amazing things. So I think defensively, I like the things that I see. It's just, can Shaw do it, or can Wesley Jones grow up in a hurry here?
Yeah, and it's there. Wait and see. Like if I had 3 words to describe this Amarillo team, wait and see, because I need to see them take the field, see what they're talking about, and see what's going on to be able to make a proper distinction. But this Amarillo team, they might be the best team in Dallas, or they might be the best team in Texas this upcoming year. So you got that going for you. Yeah.
They could also not be the best.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of another team where there's a lot of unknowns, let's flip it over to the other Texas team in Dallas, where I've already used my off field.
You used it.
Banter.
You're done.
I used it. I can't do it. I'm done. Get the bleep button out. But Robert Kent coming in and trying to figure things out on the fly here and develop a roster that can be competitive here. And at quarterback, Gerard Evans looking like he's going to be the guy for them. And I love the fact that if we want to look at non-league games, preseason games, whatever you want to call it, some people last week you saw what Louisiana took on the FAR Phantoms. Mm-hmm. The Pueblo Punishers had an exciting play between the NOCO Nightmare. Watch it live on the NAL Network. Dallas is playing the country of Mexico, apparently. Team Mexico versus the Dallas Bulls. So I can't say I've ever seen that in arena ball before. So this weekend we're in for a treat. The entire country of Mexico versus Dallas, and we'll get a feel for what this Robert Kent-led team and Gerard Evans at quarterback can do.
Yeah. I mean, and last year, Kobe Martin feels like he's going to be the guy because he did spend time in AF1 last year. He struggled. He played 1 game and completed 7 of his 10 passes, no touchdowns, 1 interception in that 71-4 shellacking that Salina put on Washington last year. Mm-hmm. So, against better leveled competition, that isn't a monster playoff team. I'm interested to see what happens there. Gerard Evans also is a big physical guy, standing at 6'4", 240 at quarterback. So they have some options. Again, this is just a case where these aren't guys who are as established. So I'm curious, and I have questions about whether this team can compete outside of Amarillo. And, that's kind of basically it. It's like we have a top 4 that we feel good about, and then we have a bottom 5 where we're going to get 2 playoff teams out of that.
Yeah, Yeah, and even if we wanted to break out those tiers even further, it feels like tier 2.5 would be like that Pueblo, Sioux City, and then Louisiana, Amarillo, Dallas is where it gets dicey to me, where literally anything can happen. And I would not be surprised out of those three teams.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing is, arena football's here. We have
100%.
We have 2 games this weekend. We have the Colorado Showdown, and we have the Amarillo Warbirds and Louisiana Rougarou going head to head. I think these games kick off at the same time, or right about the same time, if my time zone math is correct. Because Amarillo and Louisiana is kicking off at 7:05 Central, and
Yep.
Colorado and Pueblo is kicking off at 6:30 Mountain, so that would be 7:30 Central.
Yep,
So we
they're
can get some
making
nice
us do some
action
math.
going,
Yeah.
which is always good, always good, always good. And we'll see if we get to watch Omaha, Dallas, and Sioux City against their non-league opponents. It'll be interesting to see, and just get our first look at these teams. So, do you have any predictions for? I mean, we kind of already said we think it's 4 teams competing for a championship. Is there one that you like better out of those 4?
I really like Colorado. Like it just retaining a lot of the talent that they did from last year, which was a really good team in its own. Paxton Lynch, that's going to be the wild card there. Where can he be a quick decision maker, a quick strike artist that they need him to be? That'll be the wild card for them. But I really like Colorado, and it feels like it's going to come down to Colorado and Omaha, just because Omaha has been to the championship game no matter what league they're in. I think for 5 straight years. So it just seems like it's a Colorado Omaha destined to go against one another.
I disagree, because I think this league is actually going to run through Kansas this year, and I think it's Carolina and Southwest Kansas. Like, I'm a little biased, but I'm very familiar with these teams and these coaching staffs.
Yeah,
and just the work that I've seen both of them put in over the last 2 years, and how well they've played this game, and how well they faced adversity. I'm really interested to see what they do in the NAL, because I think both Thomas and O'Neill are gonna do some really good work and manhandle some teams. And I think they're really going to put the league on notice. I think especially with Southwest Kansas having that D-Wash Matt Struck connection is going to be huge. Because there ain't no D-Wash can get open against anybody at any time, anywhere in the 50-yard game. So having a guy like Matt Struck who can deliver the ball and also pick up chunks of yardage on the ground with his physicality is going to be big. Again, the question I have with Salina is what happens at quarterback. But I trust, if there's anybody on earth I trust to figure it out, it's Haran O'Neill. And I just think Omaha is going to be pushed during the regular season in a way that they haven't been pushed in a while. I mean, we saw them get pushed last year by a lot of teams, and I think just the massive step up in parity is going to be gonna punch them in the mouth a few times. I don't know that they're going to fall back necessarily, but I think they're going to be staggered a few times. And again, I think if Paxton Lynch can prove that he's an NFL talent who can make the quick reads and quick decisions, him and Lex Rosario are going to be absolutely lethal, because Lex Rosario is one of the best receivers in the 50-yard game. And the fact that he was so limited last year is interesting to me. So I wonder if that just wasn't a time on task for him. So I'm curious what that looks like moving into a full off season that he's had with Lynch now.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the beauties of the NAL this season. You talked about it, the parity amongst the teams, where you can make a case for 5 or 6 of these teams to realistically make a shot at it, right? So it's going to be a really fun season ahead, and it kicks off here in a couple days.
Yep. So don't forget, y'all, you got about 2 hours left to cash in on a code NAL preview over on the Arena Football Weekly shop. Again, all proceeds go to Trey and Adam's beer money when we go to arena games. So coming up next week, we're going to be starting our IFL previews. And then after that, we will do some AF1 and weekly. And then we'll just be weekly, because we'll be in the heart of it. 3 leagues going. And at some point we'll add in the TAL, but thank God we don't got to worry about that until like
Yeah.
June. So we have time to get through the other 3 leagues before we got to worry about adding the TAL, and we'll see about the IAL. I might have broken our rule there, but
you see, boo this man. Boo.
I did. I made the second comment, so I owe Trey a beer. But just so no one thinks we're not aware, we're aware. We're keeping it on the field. So so that's it. I'm Adam. That's Trey. This has been Arena Football Weekly, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, you win some, you lose some, and sometimes you just mess it all up. So CBS 7 kickoff is deep, and it's going to be off the net. And it's going to be grabbed by Isaiah Scott. Isaiah Scott makes one man miss the end zone. Scott makes it to the near side. Scott, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown. Mike. Walks it right in. Play on that ball right over top of the defender. And boy, see the replay here. He put Caleb Smith in motion with Jonathan Banks, just threw a little swing pass, and Caleb Smith with the rest. On there. He's got a lane in the middle if he can get past him. And he might be good for a touchdown. There it is. And wow! Trayvon Sidney straight down the middle, pulls a move on the kicker, and he's in the end zone for about 6